Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of The Mistake Zone, your weekly dose of our lives and the mistakes within them. My name is Jaren Wade. Joining me, as always, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Matt Alba. Hey, Matt.
Yo.
Welcome back.
Hey, I'm back.
Matt, It's been a minute since we last have done this, since we've gotten together in the Saturday Morning Arcade Clubhouse in the Mistake Zone HQ. And needless to say, Matt, don't remember how to... To be fair, I have never been able to properly speak into this microphone, but especially right now, after we have closed the vault for the time being, back to you with your regularly scheduled Mistake Zone. But Matt, normally this is the time when I crack open a cold beverage. But Matt, it's been 4 weeks and you went on a lot of adventures. So Matt, floor is yours. How have you, Matt? First question though, you've been back for a day or two now, I believe.
Yes, I came back around Sunday. We were recording this on Tuesday. I came back on Sunday at around 5 p.m.
So I have to ask Matt, how are you feeling? How's the jet lag? Do you have any jet lag? Are you okay?
I'm mostly okay, Jaren. I am usually, for the past 2 days, have been up most of the day, and then I take a 2-hour nap from 5:30 to 7:30 ish is usually when I'm napping.
Did you go straight back to work the day after?
Oh yeah, I did.
Matt, you, Rakush, you got. Then again, I'm not really one to talk because I did the same thing when I returned from my trip last year. But Matt, you were gone for 4 weeks or so.
Yes.
And normally this is where you regale your tales of grand adventure. But for the past few weeks before our hiatus, and we were leading up to, this vacation period, we had some recurring goofs, that I've personally found amusing. But have to ask you right off the bat, Matt, now that you have, I guess, over 24 hours of travel time behind you, Matt, what did you do on the plane and how were the plane rides? Both there and back.
Oh man, Jaren, those plane rides were but the plane ride back for me was actually a bit more rough, but the plane ride there was actually it was okay. The plane ride there actually took longer than the plane ride back, but got a lot of movies in there, Jaren.
Okay, Matt. What have you been? What did you watch on the plane?
So, Jaren, on the way there, the first thing I watched actually was the Willy Wonka movie.
The new one, Wonka.
Oh yeah,
right.
Wonka. Yeah, it's not Willy Wonka. Yeah, it's just Wonka. Jaren, going into that movie, I did not realize it was supposed to be a musical.
Really?
I just thought, oh yeah, it's gonna just be okay, I didn't know it was gonna be a musical. I guess actually the original Willy Wonka was a musical as well. Now that I'm thinking back to it, because it is just about kids dying, I guess.
Yeah, when you look past all the candy and the glitz and glamour, it really is about kids really having karma get back at them. But how did you feel about the remake, Matt? Or remake, reimagining?
I think
is it a prequel? I believe.
I think it's a prequel. I think it's a prequel to the original Willy Wonka, or maybe it's alternate universe Wonka,
pre-Charlie, if you will.
But Jaren, this movie was very there was a certain aspect of this movie which really caught me off guard, which is that I think Willy Wonka is a wizard.
Wasn't that always the implication that he had magic or some sort of power?
I didn't Okay, so I never watched. I only ever watched that very original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or whatever the actual name of it was, and this version of Wonka. All the other I guess Wonkaverse movies, I really only watched like bits and pieces of it, never like, sitting the whole way through.
Fair.
And I never realized that he has powers. Like he has chocolate that literally makes people like, float. I think he had something that made someone like invisible or like makes them fall asleep and hallucinate and stuff like that throughout the movie. And like, I don't know. I was very thrown off by that aspect of the movie. And then kind of like later on in the trip, I kind of looked up Wonka more, and apparently like this movie was made like in part by the people who did the Harry Potter movies. And that suddenly became like very apparent looking back on it.
Now, I personally didn't finish Wonka. I made it up to the part where he starts selling chocolate at the square and everyone starts floating, and Matt, we never went back to it. So I have to ask Matt, is it worth going back to?
I thought it was like an okay movie, Jaren. Like I didn't think it was anything like too crazy, but I thought it was like a good watch for, me being stuck there for how like that. I think it was like a 14-hour flight. But
so Matt, I have to ask, with just a peek behind the curtains, we might have to return to the vault within the next few weeks, but would you recommend Wonka as a good in-flight movie, or would you recommend just downloading a bunch of anime?
I don't think like Wonka's a bad in-flight movie. Jaren, one movie that like I feel like you may have already watched this because like I don't know, this feels like it's a movie that you would have watched, but I watched this on my flight back. Jaren, I watched the new Mean Girls.
Matt, I love the new Mean Girls.
the new Mean Girls is really really good.
Okay, I know we briefly talked about this before you left, but Mean Girls has a special place in my heart. I said this a few weeks ago. It's one of my 3 comfort movies, Matt, where I can throw on Mean Girls, I can throw on Tokyo Drift, and I can throw on You Got Served, and that's a good time, Matt. That's a good second monitor in the background, or if we still lived in a time where I could flip through channels and one of those 3 movies was on, I'd watch that. That's my afternoon. But I was really impressed by the new Mean Girls in a way where it was not necessarily, a reboot, but I like to think it's more of a reimagining. It still has all the original story beats, but in a way, it was really modernized based on kind of, just current, what I perceive as teenage sensibilities, where just how much social media plays into the new Mean Girls, I was actually really impressed by, and it makes so much sense in retrospect. But enough about me, Matt. Matt, how did you feel about Mean Girls on the way back from Japan?
I really really liked the new Mean Girls movie. Like the musicalness of it. I thought, I don't know, I was like very iffy on how I would feel about it, but all the songs are all like very very well done.
Matt, do you have a favorite?
I can't remember the name of the song, Jared. It's when, what are their names? Janice and what's the name of the guy friend?
Oh, name as number one Mean Girls fan here, Matt. Name is currently slipping my mind, which is unfortunate. But was it one of the Janice songs?
Yeah, the one where like they're kind of explaining the whole plan for taking down Regina Georgia. Georgia. What's her? That's
Regina George.
Yeah, like taking down like Regina George. Jaren, I think the Apex Predator is also a very good song.
Matt, Apex Predator is the one song from the new Mean Girls that lives rent-free in my head, where, again, I watched this, maybe close to 2 months ago, and it still pops into my head for some reason. And it's Damien, I believe.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, Damien, yeah. Like, I thought those were really good. I think, a lot of the songs, like, actually, like, really were really good. Like, I liked Janice's, like, like, her turnabout song when she's talking about Katie and Regina. Like the math love song was also very good. Jared, it had the soundtrack is very very good, and I'm very very into it.
I just loved everything about that movie, especially I know it was fan service and kind of in your face, but every callback to the original Mean Girls, even if it was word for word the same goof, got a pop for me the whole time. But Matt, how did you feel about Lindsay Lohan reappearing during the Mathletes competition?
That's a good cameo. I thought that was like, I was legitimately wondering like if she was gonna play any role at all, and I felt like that was a good place for her in the movie.
Yeah. I don't know. I just love that movie. I think the casting was really well done. I believe Renee Rapp as Regina George, perfect casting for just a reboot. I love the 2004's or 2024's Mean Girls. So good. But anything else you done or did on the flights, Matt?
Jaren, I watched Tokyo Drift because I felt like that was the thing I had to do.
Of course. Matt, I told you, one of my comfort movies. Does it hold up to the Matt Alba of 2024?
I think it was like still good. Like, Jaren, I don't know if as a movie it like held up, but as a nostalgia piece, that I love I love watching me some Tokyo Drift.
Matt, we left off on Tokyo Drift for our Fast and Furious watch along. Now would be a perfect time to actually swerve into the rest of the episodes, going detail by detail about Tokyo Drift.
Oh man, Jared, if you want to integrate, when we reopen the vault, just do the more Fast and the Furious episodes. I'm down.
Matt, I think we may have to, but I know prior to your trip, we talked about you potentially playing some video games on the flight. Did that happen at all? Was video gaming something that helped occupy the 14 hours there and back?
No, not really, Jaren. It was kind of very, I don't know, holding the Switch for me was a very awkward like position on the plane, and I didn't like it. So I did mostly just stick to movies. I did like maybe only like 3 or so rounds of Balatro on the plane, and like did some Picross on the plane.
Okay,
but like I never did as much gaming as I thought I would on the plane. I occupied a lot of it with. I was very surprised, Jaren, to see that Air Canada's entertainment, I guess, selection has season 1 of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Did you watch some Fresh Prince, Matt?
Watched Fresh Prince, and I watched Ted Lasso.
Okay, nice. Matt, with multiverses coming back, do you think Ted Lasso shows up? I know that was the rumor for the longest time.
Yeah, why would Ted Lasso's going to show up in multiverses?
I think that was the reported rumor for the longest time, that he was a character consideration and some development into it. Then again, this was long ago. I'm not sure how much the game has changed, especially with it rebooting in, I think, sometime relatively soon. But Matt, do you think, with LeBron James in multiverses, do you think Ted Lasso, now that you've consumed some episodes, could work in a multiverses?
That seems like a really, really weird pull. Like, I don't know. LeBron James, I understand just because he was in Space Jam. So,
right.
He has a cartoon version in my head. But something about Ted Lasso is a bit too weird to me, because Ted Lasso was too real of a person. Which is weird to say because LeBron James is a real ass person. But I don't know. In my head, Ted Lasso is less of a multiverses pick than the LeBron James would be.
All right, fair enough. Matt, when Ted Lasso is ultimately announced for multiverses, we'll make sure to dedicate a segment to him breaking down his moveset and see how lore accurate it is. But before we move on to the main event of the episode, Matt, I have to ask, how was your plane food? Because Matt, what is the deal with airline food, and how was it there and back?
Jared, on the way back it was actually kind of like sparse compared to on the way there. Because like on the way back, I think we only got like 1 drink service and then like 2 meals.
Matt, that sounds alarming.
Because like I don't know, like on the way there it was like way more frequent. I think we got like 3 meals and there was just like constant drink service. happening like every like I don't know hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So that flight back was actually like kind of disappointing in that regard.
My first question, Matt,
Mm-hmm,
did
mm-hmm.
you get a cup noodle on any of the flights?
Did not get a cup noodle on any of the flights, but
Damn.
did get a udon noodle meal, which I think like
Oh,
held up for me.
okay. Pretty good, Matt. Pretty good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, with all our banter out of the way,
Uh huh.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
how was your 4 weeks traveling around Japan?
Jaren, I gotta say, the second I got to the airport here in Canada, I was
Yeah.
like, oh shit, this trip is gonna be way too long.
Matt,
Uh huh.
we've said it countless times on this podcast, but
Mm-hmm.
a shock to our friends, but we're not spring chickens anymore.
No, dude, Jared, I was I was like very dying on this trip, and like I'll get to like I think why specifically later, but man, Jared, I 4 weeks was way too long. I think for me the sweet spot would have been probably like 2.5 to 3.
Okay. I think I was gonna save this for later on in the episode, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just with your lifetime of travel, I guess you just answered my question of, do you have a preferred, length of how long you want to go somewhere? Where I know last year when I was kind of fortunate enough to go on a Mexican resort,
Mm-hmm.
we stayed there for, I believe, 6 days, 5 nights, and that,
Mm-hmm.
as fun as that trip was, I think anything over 3 days at a resort, too much. Especially if
Yeah.
you're not doing excursions. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I feel like you can only do so much at a resort to really entertain yourself for more
Mm-hmm.
than
Mm-hmm.
just a handful of days. But in a big, I guess I wouldn't like if you're going, say backpacking or,
Yeah.
just trying to like live, have a more live in experience. I feel like those can go anywhere between, upwards to like a few months. But as a casual vacation, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
would you say 2.5, 3 weeks is the sweet spot?
Yeah, I think for me 2.5, 3 weeks. I think okay. I think specifically for going to Japan, 2.5 to 3 weeks is a sweet spot
Right.
because I'm also considering like the amount of time investment that's going into the flight.
Right.
I think something like closer to us, like something like Mexico, or like that area. I think I would be good in for like a week. To be
Hmm.
honest, yeah.
Okay. So you need to make sure that the cost of flight time is
Mm-hmm,
paid off.
mm-hmm,
Okay,
mm-hmm,
fair enough. Fair enough,
mm-hmm,
Matt. But week one, Matt,
mm-hmm.
how was your first week looking? I believe this was just you and Kevin for now and more countryside based, correct?
Yes, that first week we were really just in Kyushu. Jaren, that I don't think I ever want to do a like that kind of like connecting flight again because
Mm,
like going back to kind of
explain.
like the flight thing, Jaren,
Yeah.
we had like it was a 14-hour flight, then we had a 2.5-hour layover, and then we had like another like 2.5-hour flight to the like Kagoshima prefecture. And I don't know, I don't remember if I mentioned this on the podcast or like to you already, but when we were originally like planning this trip, we originally had a like a hotel booked for the day that we land in Kagoshima.
Right.
But we kind of realized later on that we wouldn't be able to get that to that hotel the night of because we landed really late in
Right.
Kagoshima. So the like airport limousine or like that airport bus or whatever like had stopped running for that day. So we had to like kind of like reschedule stuff to make it so that we just kind of booked an Airbnb that was basically like a 10-minute walk from the airport. And
Did you do
Jaren,
that pre-flight or when
yeah,
you
we did that.
got
We did
there?
that pre-flight.
Okay.
Like when
Okay.
we were
Okay.
like kind of going over our plans, we realized, oh, we're not going to be able to make it to the hotel, so we had to like change the hotel dates and like book this Airbnb. And Jaren, I had forgotten until we gotten there how hilly um, Japan is.
Right.
Because man, Jaren here, we're all just just like flat landing.
Yep.
But Jaren, Japan is hilly as fuck, and we should have done the smart thing and just listened to what do you call it, the Airbnb's kind of instructions on how to get there from the airport if we're walking. But we wanted to go to like we had just done basically 22. Is that right, Jaren? Like 22 hours of travel.
Yeah.
And we wanted just like hit up the 7 and
of course
just get some stuff like just like get some drinks, get a little bit of like nanachiki, and just get something in us so that we can like get to the also like pick up some breakfast food so that
right.
to bring to the Airbnb. And then we thought, okay, you know what, since we're away from the airport now, and by the way, Jaren, I mean like the airport is like a block across the street, not realistically all that far. Well, we'll just use Google Maps to direct us to the Airbnb. And Jaren, that was an up and down hills instead of just taking the kind of like land bridge that goes from the airport to like the Airbnb, which would have been a nice flat land, which would have been very nice considering that I was like rolling a checked baggage around with me.
Oh man. I was gonna ask, how were you and Kevin's luggage situations at this point? Both checked and carry on, I'm assuming. Backpacks?
No, Kevin went wild here. Kevin didn't bring a checked luggage. He backpacked this.
Oh, that's wild, Matt.
And man, and yeah, that ended up like over the course of the trip, that kind of like broke his back at some point, and he ended up just buying a carry-on luggage to carry stuff around. But
that's how they get you, Matt. That's how they get you.
That's how they get you.
But okay, you took on the hills after you got your convenience store haul.
Yes.
Not trying to dox the place, but how are the digs, Matt? How was your Airbnb?
It was very nice, actually. It was kind of one of those places where it's like kind of like an old looking Japanese place from the outside, but they basically like kind of gutted the inside and just made it more modern.
Okay.
So it was really nice. Like I thought the furnishings were all very good. It had like actual beds, which is I think like kind of like very rare in terms of like Airbnbs and even like hotel places here. It had like an actual like mattress instead of kind of like a kind of like tatami futon, just like a raised kind of situation.
Yeah.
It wasn't like heavily furnished because it is just like an Airbnb, but it was furnished enough to make it like to make me think, oh man, I kind of wish we were staying in this place for a couple more days because it is like very, very nice.
Nice. But Matt, how was sorry, which area was this again?
We were in Kagoshima still. Yeah, just like by the Kagoshima airport.
Okay, so how was the area for your time there?
I liked it. It was we were like right on the edge of a suburb, basically.
Oh.
Like because like like it was kind of just like field and then the airport kind of like situation there. So it's like pretty nice. Like you had the kind of suburb going one way and then kind of just kind of fields until the airport on the other side. And that's a pretty nice scenic view. I wanted to kind of like put my drone up here to like record stuff, but we were actually still too close to the airport that I was using like a DJI drone for this, where it's using kind of a GPS to like tell where you are and make the drone fly back to you if like it loses signal. And like they do have a tracking to say, hey, you're like too close to an airport to be able to like fly the drone here, which I guess is like a good safety feature.
Yeah, that's actually I'm actually really impressed by something like that. So yeah, in terms of activities, sightseeing, or just general living your life, Matt, what were you up to?
So after this Airbnb, we kind of just like went back to the airport and then went directly to Kagoshima proper. I think like at this point we were in like the Kagoshima prefecture, but we were in like a city called I think it was like Kiriyama.
Okay.
And then we went from like there to like Kagoshima city. And Jaren, I think that like of the places that I went to, Kagoshima city is probably within like the top 3 or 4 in terms of like kind of like designs of that I like.
Okay.
Because it is one of those kind of cities that isn't too dense, and it has one of my favorite features of kind of Japanese architecture that I feel like I don't really see too much here is the kind of covered street. I don't know if you like really know what I'm talking about, where it's almost like just like kind of like your standard downtown street where there is just like shops and restaurants lining it, but since it is in an like kind of like an alleyway, it is they kind of like built a roof over it so that you are kind of like inside.
You find a lot of those kind of for lack of a better term, markets and like market alleys. We've been to a lot of those in our during our time in Japan and even Korea. And I think, I know what you mean, where there's just something about having a roof over your head for such a commercial area that, I don't know, it feels kind of cool, but it also feels really weird to me. But that's, especially like Osaka had kind of a lot of those too.
Yeah, like it's not a thing of like architecture that we really have here. Like, I feel like the closest thing that we have to it is the path, and that's still like a little different in like downtown Toronto.
Yeah, where I don't know, it's just this mental image of when I step through or when I walk through something like that, it really makes me feel like I'm in a mall.
But also outside.
But what weirds me out is when I look down, I'm walking on sidewalk, I'm walking on street. There are legit cars and motorcycles driving by me. And I don't know, it's wild, Matt. But so how was just the overall culture in that area?
That area is like really good. Like it has a lot, like that downtown area has a lot of those streets that is very covered. The way that like the area itself is kind of set up is that it is kind of surrounded by mountains, and then there is a kind of the ocean, and then almost directly across from the city there's a volcano. So the sights in the city was all like very, very good. Like you like no matter which way you're looking, you're just seeing like, I don't know, like buildings and then like mountains or cliffs. And I don't know, Jen, like we live in a very kind of like flatland area, like I said earlier. So I always kind of forget that mountains and stuff can be beside cities. And it always is a very kind of a striking look to me.
It's something that I always wonder about when, I've been to, the Banff area in Alberta. And even when we were near Mount Fuji, where, you have your, city living area, but it's against this backdrop of beautiful mountains where I feel like every time I would wake up there or just stroll through there, you're just kind of in awe about the scenery, where I'm always curious of, for someone who lives there, and do they grow tired of that view? Does that view become so, less spectacular in comparison to our occasional look at it? Just because, as you said, flat all around us, really dense light pollution. So, but yeah, man, that's something that kind of runs through my head. But
yeah, I kind of feel that same way because I always think about, I think like we've talked about this a lot, like not recently, but like a lot in our youth, where we have become desensitized to malls because we have Square One.
Yes.
And I feel like maybe that's how they feel about mountains.
Fair enough, Matt. But in terms of the area, anything in particular that stood out that you did?
I mean, like I think here we did the kind of standard stuff. It is a seaside town, so of course we had to hit up that conveyor sushi.
Oh, nice, Matt. How fresh was that fish?
That fish was pretty fresh, Jaren. It was pretty good, and I think this was the only conveyor sushi that actually had conveyor sushi or sushi going on the conveyor belt.
Right.
Because I think it was more of a smaller establishment, so like they could have it going, and I guess like probably like post COVID, like a lot of the conveyor sushi places just kind of switched to the iPad sort of like ordering type thing where they kind of just send it to your table directly. But yeah, like the sushi was pretty good. I think my favorite food that I had in Kagoshima was we had like a black pork katsu.
Oh man.
And man, Jaren, that katsu hit really, really good. I think like this was like such a good katsu because I feel like all the katsus I eat here are not very, I guess like fatty, I guess, or like rich. Like this was a very rich piece of pork as the katsu, and I don't know, Jaren, it really, really hit for me.
Okay. That making my mouth water, and it's really late right now, so I shouldn't be thinking about food. But okay, so this was your week one. Anything else?
Jaren, Jaren, this I think like the kind of like second day we're in Kagoshima was the day that kind of sent the rest of this trip into like a sort of tumble for me because Jaren, like you said earlier, we're not young anymore.
Nope.
Jaren, we kind of like wanted to go see this kind of observatory thing, and this observatory just ended up being on like the highest part of like the one of the cliffs that's overlooking Kagoshima. Jaren, I almost died climbing up to this thing. Jaren, ever since the pandemic, I don't really like go around that much. I think over the course of this trip, I did more kind of just like walking around than I have since pandemic happened.
Right.
And Jared, oh man, this was a rough thing for me, especially because I wasn't expecting to do this that day, or like have something like that, like intense that day.
Matt, that's the worst. That's the worst. When you plan out your day, when you wake up and think, "Oh, this is going to be a chill day," and it's anything but.
Jared, oh man, I about like 75-80% of the way up, my legs were like so wobbly, and I was like dying at this point. Jared, my legs were so wobbly, I almost pooped myself.
Matt, we've been friends forever now. And I feel like you know me, my good points and my bad points. If I was in your situation, like putting myself in your shoes, I would be in the most foul mood. So I have to ask, Matt, were you able to keep some sort of positivity in that moment?
Oh man, Jared, I just have to like I think also the bummer part about this, Jared, was that it was raining.
Matt. If we were on vacation together, if I was on that trip and that happened, I was experiencing with you, I would have been insufferable for the rest of the day. Like,
Jared, I had to sit down. I was just sitting down on like kind of the side of this like trail or like these like steps, and I was just like sitting in on basically just like a wet stone, and I had to like chill there for the next, I don't know, like half hour.
I'm so sorry, Matt.
Oh man.
That honestly sounds like the worst.
Yeah, Jared, I was like dying, but from that day forward, or even like from like the once I got to the top, I slammed like 2 Pocari sweats, and like I was like okay after that, and then I don't know, any day after that where I knew we were gonna do like, I don't know, any kind of walking, I would always grab me a Pocari sweat or an Aquarius, just in case to have to like slam when I need it.
Of course. Matt, gotta ask, is the observatory worth it?
Yeah, it was worth it. That's actually a very nice area. It was like a nice overlook of the city, and it faced the kind of ocean side where you could see like the volcano past the city. It was like really good. It's really,
Were you able to bring out the drone or?
No. Like I said, like Jaren, it was like raining, and I was worried that like,
right.
Yeah, like if it like falls and crashes on someone, I would feel really bad.
For some reason, I thought the moment you reached the observatory, like clouds cleared, stops raining, sun raining down on you guys.
Oh man,
I thought anime would happen.
Nah, Jaren. It was still rainy, but I kind of like walked around. That area was like kind of pretty cool, but Jaren, my like legs at the end of that were cooked.
Oh
and
no, God.
Basically for the rest of this trip, I never really had like more than like one day at most in like a consecutive like, I guess, like amount of time, and I guess just my legs, like with the amount of walking I was doing after that and like around it, like my legs never really reached 100% again for the rest of this trip.
Oh no.
But Jaren, that next day when we were trying to get to Yakushima,
Okay.
I think I like told you this as it was happening, but we were gonna take a ferry to Yakushima, and it was hella windy that day to the point where the waves were going crazy, and they ended up canceling the ferry.
Oh, tragic, Matt. Tragic.
So we had to, kind of reschedule everything in our trip,
Okay.
and we, had to book a hotel for that night. We kind of just ended up going back to the hotel that we were staying at to book another day. There was a leg of our trip where we were gonna go to the Kumamoto prefecture, but we ended up just like scrapping that whole portion of the trip, canceled that hotel, and just extended our stay for Yakushima.
Okay.
Jaren, I think this was one of my first purchase regrets of
Oh no, Matt.
the trip.
Okay. Okay.
Jaren, I sent it to you. We passed a gachapon shop that had the kind of quintessential quintuplets, kind of like premium gachapon figs of wedding versions of Ichika, Nino, and Miku.
Yes.
Jaren, I thought, you know what, like this is a popular thing. Like I'll go like, hit it up some other time because, this thing has like pretty good odds of getting something, I would want. Like, if I pull the Ichika, I can give that to you, Jaren. If I pull the Nino, I'm gonna keep that. If I pull the Miku, I don't know, I'll keep it in the capsule, I guess. But Jaren, I never ran into that particular gacha again.
Matt, tragic.
I think, Jaren, we had with regards to that gacha, we had just been I guess hitting that timing where that was like part one of the gacha, and part two was like, Yotsuba, Itsuki, and kind of like, like when they're kind of like trying to hide who it is.
Oh,
and
just
they're showing,
general
quintuplet, like Ren. I think they're calling like Reina, or something like that.
Yeah.
And like it was like that three, and that's the one I saw everywhere else, and it's like, damn, missed out.
Matt, I feel that. Okay. But how's that area?
So yeah, after Kagoshima, like I said, we went to Yakushima the next day. We took a different ferry this time. We kind of like took a ferry that was like much faster, but it was it was like double the price. But we got there, and that's when we got to the car rental, where our good pal Kevin was doing all the driving. Which I gotta thank him for, because man, I would not have wanted to drive there, even though like the driving there was about as simple as you could get it to be, because Yakushima is kind of like a rural area, so they really only have 3-ish major roads, where it's just like one that circles the island completely, and then 2 other ones that go to like these kind of like major attractions. Those attractions being the Yusani Gorge and Yakusugi Land, which are both kind of like these really like naturey, like forest, or like foresty areas, where their kind of design is was what inspired a lot of the designs for Princess Mononoke.
Oh.
And Jaren, honestly, there were like 2 or 3 like places in particular where I was like, oh damn, I like legitimately can see where in the anime this was.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, there's like just it's like really kind of like crazy mossy forest area that looked just like, I don't know, it looked straight out of like, a live action anime. There was like another kind of like river area that looked just like, I don't know, all these like kind of like rock formations around this river looked really cool. And there was this kind of overview of kind of a mountain valley that I like very much remember being the kind of, like that ironworks town in that movie.
Yeah.
Like oh yeah, like this is like basically where they probably based that view off of.
That's really cool, Matt.
And like, I don't know, it really, really hit, like kind of driving around. It was like really interesting because like there's just sometimes just animals on the road. There was like a time where we were kind of just like, about to kind of go to an overlook point, pulled off to the side, and then all of a sudden there's just like monkeys in front of us grooming each other, and we kind of just like got distracted by that.
Amazing.
And like, Jaren, I almost actually feel like this place, while it did inspire, I guess, Princess Mononoke, one of the things that really, really stuck out to me in this place is that this must be what it actually is like on the Animal Crossing New Horizons island.
Really?
Yeah, because like I don't know, this place does have such a small town feel. Like
Mm-hmm.
we went to an izakaya there, and it was only maybe like 4 tables, and the people serving us were like obviously a couple. When like they would come out to bring us the food, like their little like daughter was like chasing like after their mom and just like kind of like
Incredible.
clinging to her waist. Like it was good vibes there. I think one of the things that really threw me off was that there's just like speakers all over the island that play like honestly like a town tune at like I like 7 or 8 in the morning. That is almost I guess used as a town wide alarm. And then there's a similar one at about 5. And like by then I guess like that would just like signify, hey, everybody's like going home now.
Right.
It was a very like interesting vibe.
Matt,
Mhm.
just don't get that here. You just don't get that
Just
here.
don't get that
Maybe
here.
maybe even the smaller towns that we're not used to, but no,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds nice.
Mm-hmm. 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 We also like kind of like I said, we had to kind of book more time on
Mm-hmm.
Yakushima. So like at first we were kind of just staying at your kind of like standard Airbnb bed and breakfast type thing where it was just like your solo room and there's like a shared area for like everyone to like I don't know like the shared washrooms, the shared kind of like kitchen area.
Were you guys with anyone else or?
Yeah, just like some random just like random random Japanese people in this area.
Okay, fair.
So we were kind of just like, oh yeah, yeah, like hi, arigatou gozaimasu, hi, osayo gozaimasu,
Okay,
that
yeah,
sort of
yeah, yeah.
like thing.
Fair, fair, fair.
And then the kind of like second place we booked for the extra time was this really kind of like nice little cottage, and it had like a very Japanese like style to it. And I think one of the things that like I really liked about this place was that it had that a really good like wood smell.
That sounds really good, Matt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like Jaren, this kind of was the start of a kind of like new thing that I started doing for this trip because Jaren, like this is my third trip to Japan, and I at this point had with regards to like all the trips had like basically eaten everything I've wanted to eat. Like now I'm kind of just like going around to places that I wanted to like revisit, right? So this time around, this cottage had provided us a kind of like grill that we had access to.
Oh, nice.
So we ended up just going to like the grocery stores and just buying kind of like meat to barbecue, like vegetables to barbecue, and started building up like just like condiments, like just like your basics of like salt and like soy sauce and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. And Japanese grocery stores are all pretty good, like in terms of like just like value and food freshness, and I think especially food quality.
Now,
Like,
Matt,
mm-hmm.
us being Canadians, we
Uh huh,
have, let's just say, I can log into TikTok and my algo will always push me the latest Canadian grocery store supermarket controversy.
mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
tell me of what seems to be better times over in Japan.
Jiren, so considering the fact that we were on kind of like a rural island where they were kind of like increasing the price of food because like it had to like come here. There were even days when I went to the supermarket where it's like, oh, sorry, we don't have any like new produce because like the waves are
Yeah,
like
fair,
too
fair.
thing to like ship it over. But those prices were honestly still cheaper than what I would have expected to pay here in Canada. Jaren, I was getting like beef that was marbled beyond anything I've ever seen. I honestly think that if I were to buy that here, like it's like a I don't know, like 1800 yen, like kind of like pieces of beef. And I feel like if I was gonna buy that here, that would run me, I don't know, like $70 or something.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
while you were enjoying your beef at a reasonable price,
Uh
I
huh.
was at the grocery store being a vulture trying to see what was marked down 30 or 50%.
Oh man. But yeah, Jared, like the amount of that kind of like stuff they have available is like really interesting, especially when I'm looking at stuff where I was like, oh yeah, cool. They have like some cook it yourself like croquettes here,
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, but there's like some weird like kanji here that I don't really get, and kind of like playing with that. Oh, I know what this generally is, but there's like some extra like Japanese words here that I don't really understand, and like the translation function on Google is like giving me like some weird, I don't know, something like doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
I would just like kind of like buy some of these and just like eat them. Jaren, I think one of the weird things I found that or not weird things, but like one of the unexpected things that I found was croquettes that are more cream based and have like shrimp put into them.
Ooh.
Which was like like really really interesting. Like that was a very strange kind of thing to like bite into that I wasn't expecting. Jared, this cottage that we rented was kind of like, it was in almost like, for lack of a better way to say this, like in the backyard of somebody else's property.
Okay.
Like it was kind of like almost just like a guest house on their property, but the property was like pretty big. Jared, there was a goat there that I thought was a statue for the longest time. It was a real ass goat.
Matt?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you said ghost, and I thought I too loved Cinderella Night.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I wish he was a ghost, but man, Jared, that like when that goat kind of just like moved as we were driving past it on the last day, I was really shocked.
So, I was gonna ask if that goat was a bro, but I guess you just answered the question.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Okay, that sounds like good times. And
Oh, sorry, Jared.
What's up?
One more thing about this place.
Yeah,
so the gorge that I was talking about before, Jared, that water in that gorge looked so clean, and like apparently it actually was, because a lot of kind of and I'm trusting them because they're specifically Japanese people. A lot of these people were kind of just like drinking water from there.
Can't do that here, Matt. Can't do that here.
Just straight out of that river. And I was like, oh damn, that looks sick. And Jaren, I drank so much of just river water that day. Jared, it tasted so good. It was so cold as well. Oh man, Jared, that river water hit like nothing, no other water has hit for me.
You are a braver man than me, Matt. I do not think I could bring myself to ever drink river water, even if it was in Japan. I'm too scarred by how gross Canadian river water is. The river water that I have seen. I'm sure there's nicer river water up north, but not here, Matt. Not here.
Honestly, Jared, I was like, you know what? Even if I get sick, we're staying at like this nice cottage. So if I have to take a day off, like this cottage is like where I'd want to do it.
Fair enough, Matt. Fair enough. But this was only week one, Matt.
Yes.
Anything else from week one?
I think that's about it. I brought I got rocks. There's like this like cool area, like this breakwater we went to, where it had like these cool kind of these cool rocks. I don't know. I brought some rocks back. They have that really, what's that thing called? Trypophobia, kind of like like those tiny holes in them. Yeah, it has that kind of. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat.
Spooky. Okay, But Matt, week two. What's up,
Jaren? Week 2 from Yakushima, we ended up going all the way to the Nagasaki prefecture, and Jaren, Nagasaki is like, I think, probably one of the highlights of my like areas that I really really liked.
Nice.
Not so much for like, I think the city itself, I didn't really get like too much of a chance to explore, but the food there was all kind of just because of where Nagasaki is, and like it's kind of like culture. It is a very Chinese influenced town.
Okay.
So a lot of the food was like Chinese kind of fusion, and I don't know. It was like all like very interesting food, like good food. Like we had kind of like this like saro udon. We had like a Chinese style yakisoba. We had like chanpon, which is basically just like a Chinese like udon style like dish. Like all that food there was like all very very interesting to me. And Jaren, this was the first place that I got a Nihongo Josude.
Amazing.
We ended up going to this place to have this like very weird dish. I guess like I was talking about a lot about Chinese, but this place had like something called toruko rice, which is like basically like turkey, the country turkey rice.
Right.
And it's a really weird, like, kind of like set of food. It's basically like rice that you would expect from like a Turkish place. So it is like kind of like a spiced rice. They
Okay.
serve it with a salad, a pork katsu, and spaghetti. And I don't know, Jared. It's a weird combo. Everything like happened to meld together very nicely.
Man, that sounds like a good plate. Sounds like a
Good
good
plate.
plate.
Jaren, the like really, I don't know, like kind of fun thing about like this particular place is this is like the first place where I went to where I really had like a conversation with somebody in Japanese.
Oh, that's
Yeah, like
nice, Matt.
just yeah, like the Japanese like couple that was like running this place was just like very very nice and very enthusiastic in my like I don't know like 4-year-old level Japanese, probably less than 4-year-old level Japanese, but Jaren, this is also where I got foreigner carded because Jaren, we ended up kind of just like eating here. We ended up paying, and then we kind of like went to go get just some like ice cream and stuff from like Seven or Family Mart or Lawson's or something.
Right, right.
And it just so happened that we were kind of to get back to our Airbnb, we had to like walk past this restaurant again, and it just so happened that the like people who were running the restaurant just happened to like just be closing, so they saw us walk outside and they like waved us back in, and I thought, oh yeah, cool, like they kind of just like want to talk again. And what ended up happening is that we had ended up overpaying for our meal, and apparently they had like after we had left, they had like run out to try and find us to give us back our money.
Oh man.
And it was just a coincidence that they like we happened to be walking back when they were closing and saw us. And Jaron, the reason that they knew we overpaid is because I used a 20,000 or a 2,000 yen bill to pay. And this is something that I had already known at the time, but for people who like don't know, no native Japanese use the 2,000 yen bill.
Right.
That is almost specifically a bill foreigners use because like you really only get it from banks when you're getting money. So they knew specifically that it was my money because I guess I was like the only, or like we were the only like foreigners that came that day, and they gave it back and they were like very polite about everything. So I gave them a 5-star review on Google Review.
Now I'm thinking about all the times I used a $2,000 yen bill.
The whole time on this trip, I was just trying to shed 2,000 yen bills in ways that like I don't have to directly give it to a Japanese person. I was loading up my Passmo with the 2,000 yen bills. I was, buying things from not buying things from. I was when you go to like gachapon places, they have like the bill breakers.
Yes.
I would just use those in there. I get back like 1,000 yen bill and then a bunch of 100 yen bill or coins. Or I would most of the kind of supermarkets and like convenience stores, they don't like take your money anymore. They kind of just like put you to a machine where you pay.
Yep.
And like I was just using my 2,000 yen bills there so that I didn't have to like directly interact with a Japanese person and give them this like weird bill.
Oh man, that's good vibes though. Man, that place feels pretty good.
Yeah.
If I ever find myself in the area, I might have to ask you for the rec.
Yeah. But the like one like I think for me like the biggest highlight of the trip for me was still in Nagasaki, which is the Nagasaki Biopark.
Oh.
Which is basically a zoo where any animals that can't kill you are basically just like, free to roam around.
Amazing, Matt.
So you can, just like walk right up to them. I saw a kid kind of like get chased around by a flamingo, which was a good goof. This is where I, got to feed some, I guess this place is actually really just a big, what do you call it? Petting zoo.
Okay.
But this is where I got to, feed a kangaroo some food and pet a kangaroo. I got to pet some capybaras, which was, an experience that this whole trip was, I think, like, the point of this whole trip was for me was to pet some capybaras.
Amazing, man.
Jaren, their fur is a lot rougher than I would have thought. It was like petting a very, like, warm pile of hay.
Actually, now I'm really curious, Matt. That sounds odd to me.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend petting a capybara
Yeah,
based on your experience?
I think it's worth. They're all very chill. In this place in particular, you can just like feed them branches of leaves, and it's really good vibes. And
Okay.
Jaren, like I said, like this like capybara petting was really what I was looking forward to the most this trip. And I was very, very surprised that within this biopark, it was, I guess, like superseded by something, which is squirrel monkeys.
Matt, that sounds terrifying.
Jared, there's a portion of this park where it's kind of you're in a kind of just big cage almost that you can walk into, and in there are just a bunch of like these things called like it's like lemurs and like squirrel monkeys, and these things I guess have just been very, I don't know if domesticated is the right word, but they are very used to humans, so they just like walk up to you and they just like climb you, and they kind of just like jump around using people as kind of like surfaces to walk around.
Fair.
And if I could spend, I don't know, that whole vacation just in that area going to those monkeys, I think I would have been like perfectly happy, because
Aw.
I don't know, the vibes of being able to like walk up to a monkey, you like like hold out your arm, and then it climbs onto you, and it like rides on your shoulder, like you're like a colossus from Shadow of the Colossus or something.
Of
I don't
course.
know. It's like really good vibes to me.
Oh man, Matt, that sounds great. But
Hmm.
as someone who is paranoid about ticks, Matt,
Uh
were you
huh.
scared of the possibility of ticks?
I honestly was like kind of like worried about that at first, but then I kind of like was really hoping that they were gonna be, the park itself was gonna be responsible enough to be like, hey, don't they'll like look and keep track of that. I guess is like what I
Okay,
was expecting. And
hopefully.
Jaren, there at the time, they were doing like a promotional video at this park where like this dude in a kind of like green Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, like a
Incredible.
modified green, yeah, like Power Rangers like outfit, was kind of walking around, and we ended up finding the video that guy made, and me and Kevin were in the background of it sometimes.
Matt,
Uh huh.
please link the video.
Yeah,
Might not
I'll
be the
send it
show
to you.
art, but
Uh huh.
something for us.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, Matt. Anything else from week 2 that tickled your fancy?
So for the kind of second half of week 2, we went to the like Fukuoka prefecture. Fukuoka is a lot more of a, I guess, like more city ish based like kind of like thing that we did. Kind of nice to go around this area because it was, compared to everything else up until that point, it was a very kind of like chill um schedule we had, where this was more of a, oh yeah, let's just like go kind of like walk around and just shop a bit, or kind of walk around and do some temple stuff. And one of the things that I was doing on this trip is filling out something called a Goshuincho, which is kind of like this booklet that you bring to shrines, and they kind of put a stamp in it and then do like a calligraphy for the shrine.
Oh, that's really cool.
Where like, yeah, like when you went, like where you went, and like that sort of thing. And I
Oh,
don't
that's
know.
like what was it? The campground stamps or the subway stamps?
Yeah, it's like very, very similar to that. But yeah, like kind of filling that thing out like is something I had been doing kind of like passively this whole trip. Jaren, I was very disappointed that at the end of this trip I was like four things short of like
Oh
getting it totally
no.
full, but like I guess like that's how it goes. But I don't know, I was kind of like filling these things out. Jaren, I bought something called Fruit Spark, which I, looking back at the name, it makes a lot of sense. But Jaren, since we're not doing a Kira Kira sparkling water, I
Okay.
this I guess might be a quick fill in.
Okay, okay.
Jaren, this Fruit Spark wasn't expecting. First off, wasn't expecting it to be a sparkling drink. When I opened it and it like did the fizz noise, I was very surprised. Jaren, the fizz here is all very different from what we have in, I think, like Canada. It's very, their fizz, the carbonation that they do in Japan feels a lot more small and numerous. I don't know how else to like say it,
I
but
think I know what you mean. I
mhm.
think every time I would have a fizzy drink when we were on vacation
Uh huh.
last year, it didn't. it wasn't as intense as I was kind of expecting it to be, just
Yeah,
because
it wasn't as sharp almost, I
yes,
feel. Yeah.
because with, as I explained with Jaren's Kira Kira sparkling water review, I
Mhm.
mostly enjoy sparkling water for that kick.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, for the times we did have carbonated drinks in Japan, uh, sort of even with Korea too, I feel like that kick isn't as strong, and
Mhm.
it sometimes, Matt, as we've said numerous times during this episode, we're a bit older, so
Uh-huh.
sometimes a Coke will hit me. I don't drink Coke that often, and maybe this is what amplifies it, but that kick is sometimes too strong for me, where uh it's like my tongue's being assaulted, and
Mhm.
you don't
Mhm.
really get that with it's more subdued, I feel like, in Asian countries.
Mhm. Mhm. But Jaren, I think like also kind of like staying on this drink topic. When we were in Fukuoka, that was also the first time that we bought milk.
Oh,
And Jaren,
was this the
on
milk
this,
cookie area
no,
that you
this is
wanted to
just
go to?
straight up milk, just
Okay.
like milk the drink. And Jaren, it like we had bought kind of just like a 3.5% milk just to be like, oh yeah, like let's see like what they're. I think 3.5 is like whole milk, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so we're just like, oh yeah, let's see what their like whole milk is like to see like that Japanese quality. Jaron, this was the richest milk I had this whole trip. We kept buying milk to see how it was. This was crazy rich, even though like we were buying later on, we just kept buying like stuff like they had like a 4%, like a 5% milk. For some reason, this milk tasted crazy. It almost tasted like we were drinking half and half.
Matt,
But uh
as someone who drinks alternative milk,
huh, uh
I cannot begin to fathom what it would be like to have anything more than a 2%, because I guess that's what we grew up with here.
huh.
Matt, that's crazy to me.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like it tasted so rich that it was kind of wild.
Hmm.
But yeah, like Fukuoka was like pretty interesting. While we were here, we went to the reclining Buddha, which was way bigger than I thought it was going to be. Like that thing was huge. I thought it was going to be a lot smaller than it actually was.
Hmm. Okay.
We saw the new Gundam statue.
Matt, how
Mhm.
was it?
Yo, Jaren, it was good. It was good. It was good. Uh, like we were kind of like disappointed, kind of going into Japan because we were going to miss the RX-78 that's in Yokohama
Hmm.
because like we would never be in Tokyo on a day where it was open and they were going to like kind of close it for public at a certain point during our trip that we wouldn't have been able to go. So seeing the new Gundam was a nice consolation on the what do you call it, on the Gundam front, I guess.
Okay. So
Uh,
you got to see something.
mhm, mhm,
At least you have that, Matt. Matt,
mhm,
as
mhm.
I said before, didn't get to do that on my trip and kind of
Yeah.
regretting it.
Mhm. Jaren, I think like a really like Jaren, I was okay. So on the way back to our hotel from the new Gundam statue, we were kind of just like on the bus and kind of like the way I was situated, I was basically like just like creeping what this guy was like watching on his phone.
I mean,
Jaren,
as you should, Matt.
uh-huh,
As you
uh-huh.
should.
Jaren, this guy was watching this guy was just like watching like Super Smash Brothers. And I was like, "Oh cool, like okay, this guy's watching Super Smash." And I realized that at some point, oh, like this was also like this is a live stream or was like it's like a tournament or something. And then I realized that like as he was like kind of like going through the stream, the person that was playing was this guy. Like I guess he had just finished this tournament and he was like
Oh,
watching his own like games after that because like I noticed that in the kind of like where they show kind of like the players,
yeah, yeah.
like those little boxes, I noticed that one of the players was wearing exactly what this guy was wearing and I was like,
Oh
oh shit.
man, Matt, he was
Uh-huh.
studying the tapes.
Yo, yeah, 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 yo. You gotta review. You gotta review
Matt,
to know where you're slipping.
hate to be this guy,
Mm-hmm.
but
Uh-huh.
if you're reviewing the tapes on the way back from an event, is
Mm-hmm.
it safe to assume that our mans didn't win?
Jaron, see, that's the thing. Like, I don't know because, like, Jaron, maybe it could have been like qualifiers for something. Maybe it wasn't
Oh,
like a
fair,
full
fair,
tournament or
fair.
something. And like, it's not like he was going through a live stream, Jaren. He was going through a VOD. So it's possible that, maybe he made it to the end and now he's just like, looking over his matches.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Matt, that's what separates the pros from the casuals. I respect it. I respect the hustle. I respect the hustle, Matt.
Yeah, gotta respect that. Gotta respect that.
Before you move on, I just have one question, just based on, I think, everything you've said so far. I know these were more kind of countryside, smaller towns, but
yes,
how was, I guess, just the tourist situation in that regard? Like, did you find that the places you guys went to relatively busy, pretty manageable? But I guess what was just the tourist situation like?
The tourist situation at this time was pretty light, to be honest. We did go to kind of like the western end of Japan. Like these like first 2 weeks was the end of Japan, which I think isn't really a thing that most people are going to do. Like, I'll be honest, Jaren, other than like I don't really remember seeing too many foreigners when I was going around.
Fair.
The most foreigners I saw was in Nagasaki, where there was like just happened to be like a lot of Chinese foreigners, which kind of makes sense because like that is a very Chinese influenced area. But everywhere else, like, it was pretty sparse. Like I would see, the occasional like, oh, not Japanese person there, but it was like very sparse. Like the touristy areas, I think like the most populated one was probably the reclining Buddha. Okay. And I think that was also more so for like, religious purposes of it, like being touristy. But with regards to like even the amount of Japanese tourists, like these areas were at the time kind of sparse. And I don't know, it was pretty nice, like to be able to kind of go around and not be kind of inundated with like all these people kind of slowing down like your walking speed.
Fair. Okay, sounds nice, Matt. Matt,
anything
else from week 2?
I think that's mostly it from week 2, Jaren.
Okay.
There was at some point where I tried to buy chicken skewers, but I kind of like didn't read it properly, and it turned out to just be skewers of chicken skin, which was a wild food to eat.
Matt, I wouldn't have minded that. How was it?
It was like pretty good. Like Jaren, I wish we had access to a grill at this point because I had to cook these in a basically a pan, and while it did get like crispy, it was, I think, maybe going to be a different experience if it was grilled.
Fair, yeah, that sounds fair, Matt. Okay, okay, but week 3, Matt, where were you at this point?
So, Jaren, on week 3, we took a plane from the Fukuoka prefecture and flew up to the Hokkaido prefecture in the very north end of Japan.
Matt?
And,
should we make the goof?
Jaren, I don't know what you're talking about.
Matt? Would you say that the Hokkaido girls were mega kawaii?
Jaren, actually, you know what? The fashion change from Fukuoka or like the like Kyushu area to like Hokkaido prefecture was wild. And probably in the opposite direction of what I was expecting. Because, Jaren, at the time, the whole like kind of Kyushu area was basically in like spring to summer weather. Where it was like, 15 to like, I think the hottest day there was like 23. And we went to Hokkaido. There was snow on the floor. And the kind of like outfits that the people were wearing were, one, I think way more fashionable. And like 2, for the girls, way more like skin exposing than I would have expected for basically being in winter.
Matt? Random question. Did you see more snow in Hokkaido than you did here for the past few months?
Yes, Jaren, the snow in Hokkaido, there were points where it was like, kind of like when they kind of shoveled it off to the side, was taller than me. And in points when we were kind of like in the more rural areas, the snow was like up to my waist if I like went into it.
Matt? We never got waist-high snow here, which is wild. But sorry, carry on.
But like this was a very like nice area. At this point, this is when we had met up with Rakush, and Jared, me and Kevin talking about how broken we were really hard for Crucius Bello. But like yeah, like this was like also a very like kind of interesting area. This is one of the areas that I really wanted to visit because I wanted to go to the Shirokoibito Park,
Okay.
which is basically an amusement park. Well, amusement park is a bit strong word. It's like a kind of like a animatronic park, which I didn't know. I thought it was kind of just like a like fancy park that you go to, but there's a animatronic show that plays every hour. Jaren, when the show starts, they kind of just like there's like these places like kind of like these I don't know what to call them, like little pagodas, I guess, that just shoot bubbles everywhere, and I had no idea what was happening when that started. And all of a sudden you just hear like kind of like singing coming from somewhere, and you like turn around and you look, and there's like an animatronic, I don't know, chef playing a trumpet off to the side, and they're all singing. You're like, oh, that's cool. And then all of a sudden another chorus goes off to like my left, and I look up, and there's like an owl coming out of a soccer ball or something, and it's singing. And then there's like, I don't know, a cow like that's being ridden by an elf or something. And I don't know, Jaron, that whole vibe was like honestly very Willy Wonka of that place.
On brand, man. On brand, topical, but that sounds fun. Matt, were people having a good time?
Dude, I'm assuming people were having a good time because I was having a great time. Like this, just getting randomly, I don't know, seeing assaulted by these animatronic chefs and like cooks was a really really good what do you call it? Good vibe. The kind of chocolate factory itself kind of has like a self-guided tour, I guess. I don't know really like know how to explain it, but as you're kind of like going along, there's like this, I don't know, kind of like show playing along the side where there is like these like ninja cats making chocolate, and there's like this almost like Professor Layton-esque dude trying to solve a mystery on how chocolate was discovered. And I don't know, the vibe of it was all very, very good. I really liked this park. I bought a lot of these kind of like chocolate biscuit things because this is like really something I wanted to try because I heard it's like very, very good, and I think it like lives up to it. Especially when you get there, you like kind of like have to buy a ticket for the store, and they like give you a kind of fresh chocolate biscuit square, and when that thing is a little bit warm, ooh, that hit really, really well.
Oh man, Matt, make my mouth water once again. But Matt, if there's a few things that Hokkaido girls are super adorable have taught me, is that some of the food in Hokkaido is pretty bomb. So Matt, how was your eats during
Jared, my eats there were all very kind of like unique for the area. There was like three major things that I ate that were all things I never had at that point. The first being, I guess the most like kind of similar to anything I've ever had before, was the miso butter ramen. Which, like it is just a like kind of like miso ramen, which I've had before, but kind of like the quality of ingredients for it all being kind of like Hokkaido specials, where there was Hokkaido special miso, Hokkaido like butter, and since they're very well known for their milk products, that butter like really hit. There was like corn in it because like or like Hokkaido is like very well known for like having like very good corn. Like it, like altogether that thing was like pretty like very good dish. I think the only thing that really weirded me out in particular about this particular dish of ramen is that it had ground pork in it, which I don't know if I actually really like. Like it was giving a weird texture to the noodles, and I think that was really the only like bummer part for that.
Right.
But overall, like the quality of that is like it really really hit. Jared, when we went to go to this place, it was kind of like nighttime, and since we were in basically like downtown Sapporo at this point, I don't know, it was basically right beside kind of like the party district, and kind of just like walking around. I would just be like, we're walking back to the train station. I just like look to my left. There's just like bunny girl butts in the window, and I was like, oh, that just like really caught me off guard.
Incredible,
just immediately looked away.
Of course.
Yeah. Also had soup curry, which I actually like really really enjoyed. I think I'm gonna try to like make here. Like in terms of flavor, it really is kind of just your standard Japanese curry, but a bit more soup-like instead of stew-like.
Right.
But the kind of ingredients that they use with it are all very, I think, like hit very well, because it was stuff like, kind of like tempura, squash. Like there's a lot more chunks of like vegetables and like meat in it. They like had kind of like karage served with it, and the rice was like kind of on the side, so you can kind of like control how, I guess, like saucy your rice is going to be. Like overall, like that soup curry is probably my favorite meal of my like Sapporo portion of the trip.
That sounds so good, Matt.
But I guess like the most like unique one would have been, we went to the Sapporo Beer Museum, and Jaren, like personally I don't drink, so I didn't really get too much out of the the beer museum portion of it.
Fair.
But inside the beer museum, there is a place to do Genghis Khan, which is the kind of lamb or mutton like barbecuing.
Right.
And Jaren had me a lot of rice and lamb that day. It was all really, really good.
It sounds so good, Matt. I'm so jealous. Okay.
All hit really, really well.
Alrighty.
And I think like one other thing that we did while we were in Sapporo that I found like really cool was the Hill of the Buddha, which is basically kind of just like another giant Buddha statue that is kind of like built into this hollowed out hill. So when you initially go there, all you can see on this hill is, it almost just looks like there's like a tree or like rock at the top of the hill, but it's just the top of the Buddha's head. Okay. And you have to like go underneath the hill to like see the like proper Buddha, and like it's just there sitting cross-legged, and it's like in this kind of like domed area, and its head is like kind of sticking out at the top of it, and I don't know, it looks really, really cool and kind of like majestic in the way that the area is like built. And I don't know, like I think it's like very much worth seeing if you're going to go to the Sapporo area.
Okay.
Plus cool, that area has like kind of it has Easter Island heads there for some reason, like off to the side, and it also has its own version of Stonehenge.
Amazing. Matt, what more do you need when you're trying to look for just sightseeing?
Oh, sounds also good, when we were waiting for the bus, we saw a fox. That was really
amazing.
Cool.
Matt, was it a mysterious fox?
It was actually like a very like mysterious looking fox, because it wasn't like a normal looking fox. Jaren, this fox is like color, or not color scheme. It's like fur was like golden almost. It looked really, really cool against like the snow. I don't know,
so
like
a shiny fox is what you're saying.
It was a shiny fox, and it was kind of just like there. We were looking at it. It's like fur was long enough that you could see it like rippling in the wind. I don't know, Jaren. That it was a really cool scene.
Matt, I feel like that should be a good omen, but it could also be a bad omen. Right? You're here now, so I'm going to say good omen. But what else were you guys up to during this time?
So at the second part of this week, we had gone to Sendai. And Jaren, I think that if you want an idea of what Sendai is like, I think it's like kind of fair to call it Tokyo Light.
Okay.
Where it is like very similar to Tokyo in terms of like how it's initially kind of like set up. It is a kind of like very dense area. It has a lot of those kind of like those overhangs that go over streets so that you don't have to wait to cross it. You just kind of just like go up and go around.
Right. Yeah.
It has a lot of those, but those are all interconnected on the top right at Sendai Station. So you just have like basically a huge platform that people can walk on out there. It's like a very nice area. Jaren, I had corn tea here, which personally I didn't really like, but it was an experience I think like worth having. We ended up going on an excursion from this area to Yamadera, which is basically just like an area with like, I don't know, 7 or 8 temples that line this kind of a mountain cliff. So, climbing up that was another wild hike for me.
Okay.
Jaren, so Jaren, we were staying at like this like hotel, and the fridge there, I think this is a weird thing to say about like, I don't know, any part of the trip. That was my favorite fridge.
Amazing.
Jaren, that fridge kept everything so cold. It was at the point where things would, I can't remember the name of this, like, I don't know, phenomenon is not the right word. This like thing where when if you like knock some like a liquid and it's like cold. It's super cold, where it's like cold enough where when you hit it, it like does that thing where it freezes from that point outward.
Oh, that's cool.
Man, I love that. It gave me just like slush for all of my slush versions of all of my drinks, which I was really really into.
Damn, Matt, that sounds really good.
Mm-hmm. Also, caught a bunch of croquettes. And Jaren, one of the specialties in Sendai is something called like zunda,
Right.
which is basically just edamame into other things. Had some edamame chocolate, which was pretty good. I had an edamame shake, which personally I didn't like, but Kevin and Rakush both liked it, so I think it's like worth trying
Okay.
to see if it's like your jam. It is kind of just like, to me, I think the best way to describe it is that it is like edamame mixed with a like vanilla soft serve. I think it's like a close way to put it.
Yeah, I feel like that would be an acquired taste.
Like I can see why people would like it, but for me, I think it is not a thing I would. It's not a thing I would order. If someone offered it to me, I would drink it. I think that's where I stand
Fair,
on
fair.
Zunda shake.
Okay, fair enough, Matt.
But for the most part, I think like Sendai was like a recovery portion of the trip for me, where like kind of just like slow rolled it, went around, ate croquettes.
Right.
That was basically like my whole Sendai.
Man, you gotta rest up for your final week there. And so how was week 4, your last week on vacation, Matt?
So Jaren, week 4, we had gone from Hokkaido Prefecture all the way down to Tokyo. And Jaren, by this point, my body was broken.
Gotta say it again, Matt, we are no longer youths.
So a lot of my stuff for Tokyo was basically, okay, wake up, go go like eat something, and then we'll go somewhere. I stay out for, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours, and I go back and just like cook for myself. That was basically every day in Tokyo for me.
Okay.
And Jaren, one of the places I went to during like this week was the Mega Tokyo Pokemon store. I can't. It's like something. The words are all there. I don't know if that's in the correct order.
Right.
Jaren, I got so tilted in this place because I was looking for Okay, so Jaren, there's a line of Pokemon products called Pokemon Fit.
Okay.
I don't know if you know this line of plushies, but they're basically like 3 to like 5-inch plushies that are made to like kind of just like sit around, because like they're kind of like weighted towards their like kind of like butt, and they're all in positions where they're like kind of like sitting or idle stancing.
Okay.
And the kind of like thing about this line is that they have a plushie for every single one of the Pokemon. Like that is like the main draw of this line.
Oh man, if you were trying to collect all that, Matt.
Yeah, that would be wild. But Jaren, of all the places I would have expected to have like all the kind of like Pokemon Fit toys, I would have expected like the Pokemon Center like Mega Tokyo to have it. And Jaren, they like admittedly they had a lot of them. Like they had a lot of them. I think it is so wild that they did not have the original Eevee set here.
That's a crime. That's a crime, Matt.
That's wild. They have everything around it. They don't have the original Eevee set. Another one that was I did buy a Slowpoke and a Ditto because they look pretty good. I also bought a Cyndaquil. I was really sad that they didn't have Quilava because they would have preferred to buy that one. Jaren, they also did not have a Mimikyu, which I thought was a shame because like I don't
there?
like Jaren, I understand that like these are like very popular ones, and I can understand them being like kind of sold out.
Fair.
When I went there, but I don't think they were. I think they just didn't stock them because the way that they had them arranged, there wasn't like an empty space for these things to have been. I think they just didn't have them, which is wild to me.
Matt, you hate to see it, Matt. You hate to see it, Matt.
One of the big things I did buy there though, Jaren, is the move Substitute.
Yes.
Where it like creates that kind of like substitute doll.
Yep.
They had the doll, so I I had to go buy that.
Matt, amazing.
So really good. I felt like I was like, as mad as I was about them not having the like Eevee versions of the Pokemon Fit stuff, that substitute doll really, really added for me.
Matt, can I selfishly take a portion of the segment to
What's up, Jared?
ask you a question? This is the will I feel bad portion, but
Okay.
I forgot to, ask you or one of the pals if you guys went by a Pokemon Center. But Matt, since you went to a Pokemon Center, did they have the line of plushes of the Pikachu dressed up as different Pokemon?
No, they did not.
Okay.
I was actually looking for something like that as well, and I
Okay.
didn't see anything like that.
Alrighty. Now I feel less bad, Matt, because Matt, if you did say that they had that line of Pikachu plushes and there was a Rayquaza one, Matt, we feel pretty bad right now.
Yeah.
But okay, so you went to the Pokemon Center. So yeah, seems like a really low key time in Tokyo, Matt. I believe, were you guys in Ikebukuro or?
Yeah, we were in Ikebukuro. Yeah.
Nice.
Jaren, I actually thought very interestingly that at the Pokemon Mega Tokyo area, there was also a spot where people are just playing the Pokemon trading card game.
Amazing.
There's a whole store area for that. And I was also very surprised to see that there's a whole area specifically for Pokemon Go. And
how's the Pokemon Go scene in 2024 in Japan?
Jaren, it seems okay. I didn't really do too much in Pokemon Go. I did open it every so often, and I did see that raids were going on, and I would look around every so often, and I would see people playing Pokemon Go.
Nice.
And I think, oh, I should play Pokemon Go and check this area. But I don't know if you did you see the Pokemon Go spot in this Pokemon Center when you went to Japan last year?
I did not.
Okay, so one of the kind of wild things that I kind of saw here is that obviously in this area they're going to have a gym for within the Pokemon Go kind of what do you call it game, right?
For sure.
And there is a very physical spot within this place that displays the gym. There is just a kiosk almost that has actually it's not a kiosk. It's this center screen in the Pokemon Go store. And when I happened to be there at a time when the gym changed ownership, and it went from kind of I can't remember the names of the teams in Pokemon Go anymore, but it went from the red team's ownership to the blue team's ownership. And it was at that point that I realized that all the lighting in the store was red.
No way.
And then when it changed ownership, all the lighting in the store changed to blue.
That's crazy.
And I was like, that's wild.
Oh my god. Nah, that's insane.
It's a really good. It's a really good interaction.
It's so cool, man.
It also shows the Pokemon that are in that gym, on the screen.
Oh man,
I don't know. It's really cool.
That's so cool. That almost makes me want to play Pokemon Go again. Almost.
Almost.
But yeah, what other shenanigans did you get into in Tokyo, Matt?
So on that kind of second day, it was hella rainy, hella rainy. So I really kind of just walked around Ikebukuro itself, kind of just looked at some shrines there. And Jaren, I found a kind of Japanese take on crunchy Cheetos.
Oh,
Jaren, they are very good. I ate so much of them that I got sick.
Amazing, Matt. You're on vacation. You have to look it up.
Yo, Jaren, they had kind of gourmet cheese, where it was I don't know, 4 cheese crunchy Cheetos, and they had a steak flavored crunchy Cheeto. And oh man, Jaren, those were so good. I got sick of them, or I got sick off of them, and then I bought 2 new bags to bring home.
Amazing.
So maybe I'll get sick off them later this week.
Oh man, the only Cheetos check we have is I was in Costco the other day, and apparently they have ketchup Cheetos now, which I didn't buy the bag because we bought a big bag of Doritos that's half Cool Ranch and half their dill unopened, and we're debating if we want to return it.
Does that mix very well?
I don't know, Matt. It was an expensive bag, so I'm not sure if we should keep it.
Oh man.
But yeah. So rainy day 2. Did day 3 look up, Matt?
Yeah, day 3 we went to another Buddha. We went to the Buddha that's in Kamakura.
Okay.
Jaren, oh man. This was kind of the first day where I really, really ran into tourists. It was that point where, you're kind of just like shuffling slowly along the street to get to where you're going because there's so many people.
Right.
About like halfway through that day, me and Kevin got like kind of like tired of that, so we just started like navigating on back streets to get to where we wanted to go.
Okay.
Which was a much better idea.
Yeah.
That place was like pretty nice. Like Jaren, I think the two Buddhas that I had seen prior to were much like bigger and grand, and the vibes there were a bit more like serene, I guess.
Okay.
Where like this Buddha wasn't really as interesting, but there was like one really cool kind of like, since everybody was taking pictures, it was kind of hard to like get into a spot where you could take a picture of this like kind of like Buddha statue.
Yep.
Like in a good way. So we ended up moving off to the side, and we ended up finding like there was like this cherry blossom tree that just happened to have an opening where you could use it to like frame the Buddha's head, and I don't know, it's like a really
That's
cool
so
shot.
cool. All right, yeah. Matt, is that the show art this week?
Oh, maybe. I'm gonna see if Kevin can send me a picture, because like he actually had like a legitimate camera instead of me just using my phone camera. But like I'll see.
Okay.
But we had also gone to Yokohama while we were in Tokyo.
Oh, nice.
And Jared, like you gotta go to Yokohama. You gotta check out Chinatown. We ate some Chinatown Nikuman, pretty good.
Nice.
And Jared, we saw a Shiba Inu that was walking around in like
Amazing.
a what do you call it? Like a what do you call it? Schoolgirl kind of like uniform.
Amazing.
Like the Sailor Fuku or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a good goof. It was a good goof.
That was
a good sight. And Jeremy went to go just see if we could get anything for the Gundam in Yokohama. And Jeremy, we actually got like a really like, it was kind of like closed off, but you could see the RX still. Mm-hmm. And it was like in this kind of state of half taken down. And it was actually a really like kind of like cool scene to see the Gundam in a state of almost like, disassembly or like kind of repair. Like, it just like came back from some like wild fight, and now they need to like rebuild the parts that broke.
Matt, at least you got to see part of that. Actually sounds really cool too.
I just like wish that we could have got closer to it, like because we were kind of like the area was kind of like closed up because it technically is dangerous to be around it as it's being taken apart.
You still got to see something though, Matt.
And Jaren, on a different day, Jaren, I didn't know this was a real street. I don't know if you ever ended up watching Sarazanmai or not. One of my favorite, 2019 anime.
Of course. But yeah, what's up?
Jaren, I didn't know that because Sarazanmai, like one of the like kind of like normal like set pieces inside that place is like this like place with a bunch of like kappa.
Right.
Like, and I didn't realize that that's a real place. I was like walking down the street because also on the street is just a kind of like, it is kind of like a shopping street. At this point, like Rakusha's just trying to buy like a knife and like a chef's knife, and like this is like was the area to do it in. And as we were walking around, I just saw all these things from Sarazanmai, and I was just like legitimately surprised to see that it was like a real thing. And then I saw a post box and a manhole cover that had just like actual art from Sarazanmai. And I was like, a really, really, really good, really, really good, I don't know, experience to go through.
Hey man, can't escape that golden year of anime, 2019. Sounds good though, Matt.
And Jaren, of course, I had to close off my Tokyo experience by going to Akihabara.
Of course.
And
how's Akihabara a year later?
Jaren, I was very sad to see that the AKB cafe and the Gundam cafe got closed down.
No.
They were replaced by the Tamashi Nations store by Akihabara Station. But Jaren, that place is still Akihabara.
Of course.
Walked around, I think like almost like within the first 15 minutes of being in Akihabara, a Gura cosplayer walked by me, and I was like, oh, neat. Of course. Saw a couple people in like, what's it called? Like the kind of like Lolita fashion kind of like look.
Yeah.
I was like, yep, that's still Akihabara. Jaren, Hololive goods are weirdly like, weirdly hard to like find for me.
Oh.
Jaren, I unfortunately did not find your cards. I hate to say that here on the show, but
no worries, Matt.
I did pick you up some Hollow merch for whenever I next see you.
My man.
Mm-hmm.
But
And Jaren, I don't know if it's just because of like the way I like look, or the way that like I'm like because I'm like wearing my hair right now in kind of like a top knot right now.
right.
And when I was buying like in particular like your goods from like a place I found some Hololive goods, I was watching this cashier like kind of like check people out. And the people who were checking out before him, like this person was just like kept talking to them in English. Like this guy has like perfectly good English. And he was like just talking to these people like, okay, yeah, and kind of like checking them out that way. And Jaren, I don't know if maybe I'm just like being racist here. These people looked way more Asian than I did, or like way more like like these were all very East Asian looking people.
Right.
So when I got up to this guy, I was about to like say something to him in English, and then he started talking to me in Japanese, and that really threw me off.
Amazing. Matt might have been the top knot. Who knows?
Maybe. Oh man.
Oh, classic. Matt. Classic.
Yeah. Oh man, Jared, I got cred. I was so ready to have an interaction in English, and then when he started talking in Japanese, I was caught off guard.
Oh no, Matt, did you continue the conversation in Japanese?
Oh yeah, of course I continued in Japanese. Yeah, Jared, I'm not gonna be rude to this guy who's talking to me in Japanese. Fair. But yeah, that was a good goof, Jared. On my kind of like last day in Tokyo, I was kind of just like slow rolling it because I kind of just wanted to like not have sore legs when I go onto this like plane ride.
Yeah.
And Jaren, I happened to go to like the grocery store, and I found the most amazingly marbled piece of like steak that I had seen the whole trip. Ended up buying that, got me some mushrooms, got me some croquettes, and that was basically like my final meal for Japan. And Jaren, while we were in Sendai, we like got a like Sendai like steak meal that ended up being kind of like close to like $90 something.
Mm-hmm.
Jaren, this steak that I bought at this random like at this grocery store. Wait, no, it wasn't even a grocery. It was like a Don Quixote actually. It wasn't even like a real grocery store.
Yeah.
This Don Quixote $18 like meat was honestly, I think, very closely comparable to like that beef. Like it was maybe like a one tier lower, but since it was like a quarter of the price, I think it was very much worth.
That sounds worth it. Matt, that sounds like a good time, and nothing beats a good home cooked meal that you did yourself. But Matt, sounds like you had a time.
It was a good time, Jaren. It was a good time.
Oh man, Matt. I hate to ask though. Again, need to look into our mortality a bit. Matt, when's the next round?
Jaren, I don't know if I can do Japan again. Oh man, Jaren, my body was so battered this whole trip that
oh man,
I actually don't even know what I would do the next time I went. Because like Matt, I think I hit all the a lot of the major stuff that I would want to hit.
Fair, Matt.
But yeah.
Good thing there's a whole wide world out there for you to explore as well. For the next time, we have to enter the vault. Matt, my final question to you. How was the convenience store game for your whole 4 weeks there?
Jaren, I actually like only very lightly hit the convenience stores. Jaren, oh man, damn. So I can't remember if I told you this or not, but I went to a convenience store and I saw these chocolate almonds that had choco on them.
Okay.
And I wanted to buy them for you.
Aww.
But
thanks, man.
I couldn't. Because when I brought them to the register, they were expired and they wouldn't sell them to me.
Oh no, Matt. Again. Wouldn't see that here.
Yeah. They wouldn't even check that here. Oh man.
Matt. I feel like I need to say this side story, but
okay.
I enjoy the app Too Good To Go, which is essentially restaurants who are involved in the program or the app or the service,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, they'll put up, their leftover food, unsold food that's approaching expiry date. And then, they'll put it up on the app and then you essentially go to grab your surprise bag. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
example, Tim Hortons would put up a surprise bag for like $5 and then you'll get it. You'll get a bunch of like baked goods.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a convenience store in this area,
Yeah.
and it has a relatively low rating, like 2.6 out of 5 or something.
Okay.
And
Uh-huh.
I was curious because Matt,
Mm-hmm.
it's in a less than savory part of town.
Yeah.
So went to the local Reddit, looked up, searched Too Good, searched this particular convenience store,
Uh-huh.
and Matt,
Mm-hmm.
there was one post,
Okay.
and it was a warning about the certain convenience store where
Uh-huh.
guy went in, um, asked for his Too Good to Go box, and then the cashier smirked to himself, went back, brought out the bag, and the guy left, opened it up, Matt.
Uh-huh.
3 containers of spoiled cream cheese that obviously had mold on it.
Damn.
Fucked up, Matt.
Damn. That's
Fucked up.
rough. That's rough.
And yet, my boy Matt couldn't get his expired Choco chocolate in Japan.
Damn. Yep. They got me.
But Matt,
Be too responsible. Mm-hmm.
4 weeks of Japan behind you. What are
Yes.
your just closing thoughts on the trip itself?
I don't know. Like I said, I think the biggest closing thought that I had was that 4 weeks in Japan is, I think, too much for me. But I think that for people who are interested in I guess like shrines and stuff, they should definitely look into that Goshu Incho that I was talking about, because that is a very interesting experience that I didn't know was a thing until I was like doing research for this particular trip.
Mm-hmm.
I think like having that like more basic grasp on Japanese was like actually very nice for this trip as well. The amount of help and like usefulness that Google Translate is able to do now with its like kind of like camera translations and
Matt,
stuff like that is amazing, like, and very very useful.
if there's
Uh,
one thing that left such an imprint on me from our time last year, it was just how crazy the Google Translate app is. Of
mhm.
course, your translations aren't, localized. Sometimes they're wrong, but there were a lot of times when, or not a lot of times, a few times when we needed help, say at a subway station or,
Mhm.
something public transit related. And it was just us going back and forth, handing each other, phones and like translation devices. And that
Mhm.
felt really cool. It felt
Uh-huh.
really cool just to be able to do that with the people, just to,
Mhm.
help each other out.
Yeah.
But I think one more thing I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on, Matt, where,
Yes.
as you said, you're in Tokyo, you found, that's when you kind of notice, oh, this is, more touristy, a lot more people, a lot more congestion. But
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
as you explain or just highlighted it throughout this episode, you and Kevin and Rikush towards the the start of his trip a few weeks later, you guys went to the country, you kind of went to areas that aren't necessarily the big, I guess, the big three in a way. That
Yeah.
wasn't Tokyo, that wasn't Kyoto, that wasn't Osaka.
Mhm.
Where do you recommend kind of that countryside for a first time trip, or do you think that's like a valid, hey, if you're coming to Japan, maybe consider just the country areas, and maybe only a few days in Tokyo?
I don't know if like for the first trip that you
Mhm.
should like visit all those places. I do think that Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka are the big three for a reason. Like they are, a very good city experience. They are very foreigner friendly, and in particular, those like three areas are very good for excursion stuff
Right.
to like go out. Like if you really, wanted to, and you had a, if you have like a JR pass, you can like visit a lot of like places, even though like the JR Pass now is like very much like not. I don't think it's like very much worth it anymore.
Mhm.
But when it was a lot cheaper, like definitely you could have just like day tripped to Sendai. You could day trip to Fuji. You could day trip to Hiroshima. Like you can day trip to a lot of like you could have day tripped to a lot of interesting areas. So now it's more so like if you want to spend the money for these train rides, you can day trip to a lot of like these kind of more rurally areas that are still very interesting while you're still in the kind of Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka area.
Okay.
I do think that like of the kind of like places that I went to, if you were to add one of them to the like kind of standard Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka itinerary, I think Sapporo is the place that I would suggest. Like it is seasonally very different. It is very kind of a very different vibe from all three of those, I guess, like main cities. And it is still very like accessible. The airport is like very very close to the city. It's very easy to get into, and getting around still is like pretty like easy in that area. And I think it's like very very good.
Okay. Matt,
Hmm.
good to have you back.
Hmm. To be back.
Good to hear about your adventures
Hmm.
and, just you enjoying yourself, even though there
Yeah.
were some points
Uh
where
huh.
you had to stare at your own mortality or
Uh
mortality,
huh. Uh huh.
mortality for a bit. But
Hmm. Hmm.
not,
Hmm.
uh, any, I know I asked you for your final thoughts, but any final thoughts before, we close it up. We make sure that the vault is sealed for now. Uh,
Uh,
and before we move on to our regularly scheduled mistake zone.
no, Jared. I think I said most of the stuff that I wanted to say. Like, Jared, I at this point, like when I was like kind of like going through my flights, I really did think if it was worth doing the direct flight now, because like that sitting for like that full 14 is like it's
Yeah.
very 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 rough. And I think if you don't have the luxury of an aisle seat, or the luxury of knowing everybody in your row to like be able to like, hey, can you like get up so I can walk around the plane or stand for a bit, is I don't know, is a bit too be a bit too crazy.
Fair. Fair enough, Matt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
your isekai adventures are behind us once again. Next week
Yes.
we'll get back to it. Matt,
Mm-hmm.
another peek behind the curtain. I thought, man, for the next 4 weeks, I'm gonna write down everything, and maybe we can have an episode of, hey Matt, this is what you
Mm-hmm.
missed, Matt.
Uh-huh.
Didn't do that.
Jaren, I heard about a lot of Dragon's Dogma controversy, so I think I may be glad that this trip happened to coincide with when that released, so I didn't buy that game.
Um, Matt, maybe that's Matt. I haven't heard about Dragon's Dog. Matt, when that game came
Mhm.
out, heard a lot about it.
Yeah.
Now I haven't heard anything about it.
Uh-huh. I
But
hope it's fixed by the time it goes on sale.
but we'll see for next week, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, great to have you back again, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And please take it away.
Oh wait,
Oh, what's up?
Jaren. We can't take it away just yet, Jaren.
Oh,
Jaren, we have one segment that like I feel like we should really hit.
okay. What's
Jaren.
up?
Jaren. We did it, I guess, technically the last episode, and we said we're gonna do it from then on. Jaren, I need you to not match me right now, Jaren.
Oh, Matt,
Uh-huh.
let's go.
Jared, get ready, because
Okay,
this is
okay.
my Japan-based "Don't Match Me."
Okay.
Jaren,
Hit me
first
with it,
off,
Matt.
really easy, really broad, but you got to be fair on this one because this is going to be a little bit of a subjective one, Jaren.
Okay.
Because the first thing I want you to not match me with is not match me on a Japanese word or kind of like short phrase.
Okay.
So, Jaren, the first one that I'm going to drop as my Japanese don't match me word or phrase. You can't match me when I say this, Jaren, because my short phrase or word is, of course, arigato gozaimasu.
Matt
Jaren?
didn't match you.
Didn't I? Okay, cool.
Okay,
Jaren,
okay. Still in it. Hopefully all our friends are still with it.
Jaren, gotta go to my next one. Jaren, another kind of broad category. Jaren, just name a Japanese food. As long as it has some kind of Japanese food Japanese influence to it, Jaren. I think it counts as a Japanese food.
Okay.
And Jaren, the Japanese food that I'm going to go with is a personal favorite of mine. Jaren, I'm going with takoyaki.
Okay. Still in it. Still in it.
Jaren, throughout this whole episode, I was very kind of like sure to, I don't know, punctuate a lot of the places I was saying with calling them a prefecture.
Yes.
Jaren, there are 47 Japanese prefectures. You just got to name one that doesn't match me. So, Jaren, the Japanese prefecture that I'm going to go with is the prefecture of Hokkaido.
Fuck. Not. Damn. I'm out. I'm matching my boy.
Jaren. Oh, man. Jaren.
All right, let's hope our friends. Let's hope our friends are still in it.
Jaren. A slightly smaller list, Jaren. And this one's very personalized to the episode, Jaren. Jaren, gotta name a city I visited on this trip. So, Jaren, gotta. I guess everybody else has to not match as me.
Yep.
And the city that I am dropping as a city that I visited is Sapporo. You know, gotta get those people who just had Hokkaido on the brain, Jaren. Gotta get those people who had Hokkaido on the brain.
Damn, Matt. Good setup. Good setup. I see what you did there, Matt. I see what you did there.
And now, Jaren, we got to go down to number 5, the last one, and the one where you're going to fall into a game of chance. Jaren, you got to pick. Don't match me on picking between Lawson's, Family Mart, and 7-Eleven. So, you know what? Don't match me on the Konbini pick, because I am picking 7-Eleven.
Ooh, okay. Even though I'm already out, Matt. Even though I'm already out. Damn, Matt. Got me with the Hokkaido pick.
We got him.
Damn.
Those gals are influencing you too much.
Took the first L here in the mistake zone.
No.
But that's okay, Matt. Still a good bit.
Still a good bit.
Hopefully all our friends survived that round like you survived your vacation, Matt. But, Matt, I think this will inform my, when I return from my vacation later in this year, this will inform how I approach my don't match me. But now we have another week to figure out what the next, I guess it's my turn next week for the don't match me. So time to think about it. Hopefully it will be topical. But again, Matt, great to have you back. Looking forward to us getting podcast ready again. But Matt, please take it away.
This has been the Mistake Zone, and we're all out of me in Japan.
For now, right, Matt? Still need that Japanese Mistake Zone episode, right, pal?